Testing.
Maybe there.
Does that sound good? Awesome. All right, all right. Okay, Mr. Vale has given me a gavel, so I will use it. Welcome, everyone, and good evening. I will officially call the Monday, July 22nd, 2024 Cumberland Town Council meeting to order. It's been a very exciting night around here. We had council photos at 5:45. Thank you, Whitney, for being our wonderful photographer. And then at 6 o'clock, we had a workshop around the Clifton Strengths Assessment, which is a wonderful tool that we are using to kind of work together as counselors. So first up is the approval of minutes from the July 8th, 2024 meeting. Any council discussion on that? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Give me a motion.
Second, Madam Chair.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any abstentions? Any oppositions? All right. That's 6 in favor and 1 abstention. Brenda, thank you. All right, moving right along to the manager's report. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening and happy Monday. Here this evening, I will just bring the council and the public up to speed on a few items that we've been looking at. Many may have noted that on July 8th, the crosswalk was repainted in the town center with the correct scheme. After the original crosswalk was painted, we were brought up to the knowledge that the color scheme that was employed was not completely correct. So it was repainted on that night. We did try a number of times during the month of June to have it repainted. What we ran into was weather. Every night we had it scheduled to be repainted. Mother Nature had other ideas that evening. So it has been repainted, and it was paid for with donations. Private donations were given to the town to take care of that. The Broad Cove Reserve Pier Expansion Project will be coming to the council next month and what we're looking for is looking to bring an update to the council regarding that project. Team was brought up to speed last week, and we're looking to pursue grant funding, and we'll have that brought forward for council action to authorize this to pursue that. And we're looking at it's a SHIP grant, SHIP, Small Harbor Improvement Project grant. That can bring us up to about 50% of the cost of the project. So we are going to pursue grant funding for that element. We have 2 other items I want to talk about: fire and EMS and police collective bargaining unit agreements. Those are both still underway. We met this afternoon with the police bargaining unit, and we'll be meeting with fire at the end of this week to discuss that. We're looking to have action for that hopefully for the month of August for council, either the first or the second meeting. We hope to come to a full agreement and then have that chapter closed with a three-year term. And let's see, a couple other things I want to talk about. On July 30th, we'll be meeting with the Eastern Region Fire Chiefs. So the county has a study relating to that. That's a study that's been ongoing. So it's Eastern Region, so it's kind of this side of 95. Also, I'm looking to the Chief Small, myself, Nathan Poor, the manager from Falmouth, and Chief Rice from Falmouth. We'll be getting together on August 12th to continue the discussion where we're at. Want to come back to report to the council some of the progress and ideas as that goes forward. As I know, it's of great interest to the council, and I'd like to come back with more productive conversations as that moves forward. And then finally, Whitney Miller is here and joining us this evening. I wanted to give her the opportunity to bring the council up to speed on the results of our online survey tool. So she's got some exciting news as far as an update as to subscription levels, what the service is, and to hopefully share that information with the public. So,
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Hi.
Thank you, Whitney.
Hi. I'm Whitney Miller, the Communications Director for the town.
And so we are partnering with Flash Vote now, as hopefully most everybody has seen. It's been in the crier for a couple of weeks. It's been on our social media. It's on the front of our website. Really what they work with us to do is to engage the community and help us gather information and input from our residents on different things that we're wondering about and get quick results in 48 hours. So as of right now, we have 330 people signed up. As of Friday, when I had got information from their CEO, we were at 299. So we're doing really well. Right now, we have more women signed up than men, and our under 30 age group is very light. The over 60 age group is where we have the majority of people signed up. So I know there was some concern about whether or not we would have kind of the older residents signed up. Flash Vote, their CEO shared with me this weekend that they really see more of the over 60 age group signing up. They seem to be more plugged into what's happening in their local government and possibly have more time to be doing these surveys. So typical for them to see the under 30 age group a little light and the over 60 much higher. That's what we're seeing here. So the next step will really be to do some more targeted outreach to certain age groups to make sure that we have more men on our panel, that we have more younger residents on our panel. What Flash Vote is able to do through some of their databases is send targeted text messages. So I will be sharing information so that people understand that that's not a scam. I don't want anybody afraid of who's contacting them for that particular text message. But as always, people can reach out to me either through our info email or through my email, wmiller@cumberlandmaine.com, if they have any questions at all. There's more information on the front of our website. And really, this is open to residents anytime. Even once we've started doing surveys, I hope residents will kind of see it or see what their friends have done and sign up. My hope is it will be a great tool for you to be able to look at kind of the sentiment around different things, and really for all of us to look at the sentiment of residents on different issues as we move forward. Any questions? Yeah, of course.
It's kind of a little bit of a comment and a clarification.
Yeah.
And maybe you can expand on it. There's been a few comments I've seen regarding being unsure about having your name out there. And I did notice when I signed up that by default, it is showing your name, and it won't show how you voted or anything, but there is a leaderboard that, shows everyone on there. And so just, I guess, when people are signing up, you can go into your profile and say you want to be anonymous, or you can make up whatever username you want.
Right.
So that is an option, and other than that, there's no other personal information that's available to anyone.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we aren't getting that information as a town. We won't ever get the information saying how this person voted with username or anonymous or any of it. We will just get the full results, just like anybody who takes it will receive. Yeah.
So realizing that the overall number depends on the breakout of different age groups and different categories and all that, roughly how many do we need to sort of have a statistically significant portion of the population? If we're at 330 right now, are we need 400 or do we need, 1,000?
We really don't need to get to 1,000 as long as we kind of hit every age group, and we have. Really, I'm relying on the scientific part with Flash Vote. That's their expertise, not mine. But they're working with me to make sure that we have kind of that statistically valid pool. But hundreds could allow us to have a solid set of information as long as we're hitting all the different demographics. Right now, we're close. They're pretty excited that over just a couple of weeks we have over 300 people signed up. That's not necessarily what they see in every municipality. So. We just need to do a little bit more to get a few more people. And I know that people are nervous about it. It's new technology. I'm really excited about it, so I'm happy to talk to anybody. If they have questions, please reach out to me. Yeah.
You have a question?
Oh, no, sorry.
Go for it. You can wait. One more question. If the question or the survey is regarding a particular initiative or thing that comes up, are those votes or those survey results going to be included in the public record as part of a comment perhaps, or some sort of thing, this is what the community said? If people aren't sending emails in or coming to public comment, stuff like that?
Yes, I think we'll have to kind of communicate about that. I will defer to Matt on that. But I would think if we're going to utilize it at the council level, that we would have those results published someplace. And we will certainly look at having a page, a permanent page on our website dedicated to showing what the different surveys have been, what the results are, and hopefully what's upcoming, if we can project out what we'd like to do surveys on.
Thanks, Whitney. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Matt, can we get Whitney to come back next week? I'm getting text messages from Ron Kopp, and I guess it's the live stream's not coming through right now.
Oh, even the live stream as well. I know Channel 2, we do have some technical difficulties
Yeah,
with
you said
that,
it's
but,
not coming through at all, so.
okay.
I just think it's important enough if Whitney, I know we can
Yep.
Yeah.
bring it back in the next meeting.
No,
but-
that's fine. And
Great.
so people should be able to view it, just in case anybody else contacts you or anybody here, people should be able to view the meeting on YouTube right now, but our Channel 2 through Spectrum is having some issues.
Okay.
So we are working on it, but we haven't heard back from them yet. Yes.
If I understand a survey tool, it's not the responses, you're looking for a sampling of a demographic. So if you propose a question and your sampling comes back at 50% in favor and 40% against it and 10% undecided, that's really all you need to know. Am I understanding the sampling correctly? I'm
Yes.
not sure that we need to know. Maybe you could explain what a sampling of a question might look like, and how much data we need, or whether we don't need it.
Yeah. So the data that we get when someone signs up is their address and their age, essentially, the year that they were born. No,
That wasn't,
I missed your question, sorry.
The point of my question is, how much data do we need? If we propose a question, we're just looking for an answer. We're looking for a sampling, a scientific sampling of the, and Gallup poll and everybody else, they're able to say, well, based on our sampling, we have an accuracy of plus or minus 1% or something like that. So, I mean, I think I'm happy with saying we put out our questions, these are the responses. We don't need to drill deeper.
Yes, so I'm not 100% certain that I'm understanding your question, but where I was kind of headed with that is you'll be able to get the results and see if there's a difference in age groups in what you get for responses to those questions. If there's a difference in area they live in town, you won't see specific addresses, but kind of general area they live in town, you'll be able to see how people are responding to whatever the question may be. And we can do questions as simple as which is your favorite trail in town to things that are much more complicated. Or we can try to see, what people have for knowledge about how the trash system works, those different things, so we can get an idea of what we need to share more of. It really depends on what we're asking, but we can that's also something we work with Flash Vote on so that we know those questions aren't biased. They're not coming from me or from any one of you. We're giving them essentially what we want to learn, and they'll come up with a non-biased question to put out there. And they're doing it for municipalities in 30 other states. So they have plenty of experience and ideas of different surveys that they can help us with to try to get to what we really want to learn from our residents, if that makes sense.
So, based on your answer, it sounds to me like the more residents that we can get to sign up, the greater the accuracy or demographics will be in when you play that demographic card or your age-related questions. The more people you have in the pool, the better the results will be.
Absolutely. I think the more people we have in the pool, the more confident we can be in those results. And the more confident you can be in using those, or at least thinking about those when you're talking through different issues.
It seems to me like it's, I mean, we did our very comprehensive 2022 survey, right? And I think that one of, if I'm recalling the presentation from the CEO of Flash Vote, it's a tool in our tool belt to kind of take a pulse and maybe retake a pulse, right? Because even though we did, that survey in 2022, it's now 2024 and things have changed, right? And we have different priorities. So I would think about it personally as a tool in our toolkit to have more timely decision-making on a particular issue, which, might not have been on the docket 2 years ago. And also, I think there were some elements about there being kind of like more pithy, kind of short, pithy questions, right? And so rather than having some comprehensive surveys, which can be a little bit of a deterrent if you don't have 45 minutes to fill it out, this is a tool for us to be able to get kind of faster information, and hopefully with accurate results, because that's really important, right? And that's what we're after.
Absolutely. The goal is really to have 1-minute surveys that residents can take while they're, making dinner or whatever they're doing, so that it's not feeling like it's a burden on them, and we can still get information back from them. It gives them an opportunity, if they don't have the ability to come sit at a meeting, to still give their feedback to you and to all of us.
Excellent. Thank you, Whitney.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anything else from you, Mr. Manager?
No, ma'am. Representative Moriarty is here this evening.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Come on up, Representative Moriarty. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. This is my first time appearing before the new council, and I'm pleased to be here, and it's a very special and unique occasion. I'm joined by my colleague from North Yarmouth, Representative Ann Graham, and I want to express the apologies of our state senator, Teresa Peirce, who couldn't be here tonight and knew some weeks ago that her schedule wouldn't allow her to be here, but she sends her best. One of the most enjoyable aspects of our job is to present what are called legislative sentiments, which are recognitions of achievement at the team, individual, or group level for something special. It may be a retirement, it may be a team championship or a club championship or something else along that line. But these are frequently given out. We often appear before the school board for varsity sports, and at Bill Shane's recent retirement, he received one as well. So it's a pleasure for me tonight, and for Ann as well, to be here to recognize the Cumberland Ultimate Girls Frisbee team. Now, I was working with, to prepare this, with Kevin Massey, the program director, who's here tonight, and I learned a lot about this program. And the thing that impressed me most is that at the middle school and high school level, there are about 140 students who participate in Frisbee competition. Little wonder that our teams have done as well as they have. We have 6 coaches in the system. We have incredibly strong backing from Rec Director Pete Bingham. And it's really paid off well for the boys and girls who participate. So what I'll do is simply read the sentiment to you, and then present it to the coach, Mike, who is also here tonight. And then, yes, Ann would like to say a few words as well. So it reads, State of Maine, be it known that we, the members of the Senate and House of Representatives, join in recognizing the Cumberland Ultimate Girls Ultimate Frisbee Club, which won the 2024 state championship for the 3rd consecutive year. Members of the club live in the communities of Cumberland and North Yarmouth and are students at Greeley High School. We extend our congratulations and best wishes, and be it ordered that this official expression of sentiment be sent forthwith on behalf of the 131st Legislature and the people of the state of Maine. And this is signed by the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, as well as the leading administrative officers of both bodies, And I'm very, very proud to present this to Coach Mike. But first, we'll let my colleague have a few words.
Thanks, Steve, and thank you for letting us come and do this. As Steve said, we typically do this with the varsity teams, and this is not a sanctioned sport in the high school. But I want to bring that way back, and I want to look to my friend Kevin and say, Kevin, when did this start? When did Ultimate start in North Yarmouth and Cumberland? 2005. So I can personally say that my kids benefited from playing Ultimate. Kevin was one of the coaches, and I just want to talk a little bit about what Ultimate is all about. My kids, particularly one of them, was never going to be playing a varsity sport, and he really fit in with this team. He really, and I was always so impressed. There were no refs. I don't know if that's still the case, because I haven't been. That they ref themselves. If there's a foul or something, they work it out. It was amazing, and it was actually both guys and girls playing together. And I just loved it. It was wonderful, it was freeing, and it gave kids an opportunity to be out there playing a sport with other kids, and when they may have never been able to do it otherwise. So I really want to thank you all. Mark Robinson was one of the other founders, and my son Drew played with his son Gain, and it warms my heart that we're doing this and that we're recognizing that this is a really awesome sport. And you've done a lot for the kids in our community, so I want to thank you. And if you want to come on up, we'll give it to you.
Sure.
Very much. Yeah, we will. Awesome. Thank you very much.
So we're taking pictures.
Oh, where's Whitney?
So this is Chloe Schumann and Zeta Smith, a couple of the players from our team. We appreciate this. Our team went 18-0 this year. The most points they gave up was 7 in a game. Games were played to 13. They were the first Cumberland Ultimate female matching team that was ranked in the nation in the history of our program. And as Ann said, I was at that first practice in 2005 with Justin Erdman, Gain Robinson, Alex Soper, and a few other guys. So my daughter and son play in the program. It's just been an absolute blast. So it was a great season. It was all because of players like Chloe and Zeta. Super fun. Sorry, I have no voice because I was coaching a boys team in Cumberland, Massachusetts for a U20 Ultimate Frisbee team that's going to nationals in Colorado in a month, and we won that tournament as well. So, great group of people.
Congratulations. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I hope there's Ultimate in, if you're going to college. I've heard there's great Ultimate in college as well, or if not, just recreationally. Congratulations. Thanks for being here. All right, moving right along into public discussion. Public discussion is for comments on items that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Rebuttal comments will be limited to 2 minutes. Public discussion topics may be brought up again under new business for further council discussion. Are there any folks in the audience who'd like to come on up, if you wouldn't mind just letting us know your name as well as where you live? That'd be great.
Sure. Hi, my name's Don Parent, and I've been living in Cumberland now for 3 years. And I lived for 20 plus years in Wyndham. But after COVID, we decided it was time to leave Wyndham and move here, and this is a great community. We love it. But I'm here for a different reason. First of all, thank you all for your public service. Thank you for, especially the new members, for being on board. We really appreciate it, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. So the reason I'm here is because I'm a member of a group called the Citizens Climate Lobby. And what is that group all about? Well, it really is all about trying to influence our legislators to implement a more equitable way of addressing the climate change issue. And if you stop back and think to how things are being done today, rightly or wrongly, the approach is pretty much a whack-a-mole approach. We want batteries, we want solar, we want this, we want that. We do it through regulations. We try to incentivize, we try to disincentivize. But most economists believe that really the free market is a way of addressing this problem. But the problem is that the free market doesn't recognize some significant external costs, right? It doesn't recognize the cost of putting up a ton of carbon dioxide in the air. And by the way, almost 70% of the American population supports doing something about climate change and about our emissions of CO2. And if you look at youth, young people today, they significantly want to see something done. So what we're about, this group that I belong to, is we're about trying to influence our legislators to implement a policy that addresses climate change on an economic level by actually putting a fee on carbon as it comes out of the wellhead or as it comes out of the mine, and taking that money that you extract from the producers and dividending, I'm sorry, I have an Invisalign in my mouth and I lisp a little bit. You dividend that money back out to the all American adults in equal amounts. So there's no money, the government doesn't retain any of it. It stays in escrow. And I certainly have a lot of information I could share with you guys about this, but I know I only have 5 minutes. But the key point is this, that the whole idea was really developed by George Shultz and Jim Baker in the Bush administration. Shultz was a PhD economist. It was his idea. His idea is, how do we create a market-based disincentive to continue to use or to continue to extract carbon-based fuels without really hurting the people who are going to ultimately pay for it, basically American taxpayers. And the idea is that if you basically charge people at the wellhead, but you return it in equal amounts, it turns out that basically the more money you make, the more CO2 you emit, the more you use fuels and so on and so forth. And I have a chart here, especially as it relates to Maine in particular. So you probably can't see this that well, but you can probably see that the blue is higher over this end and lower on that end. And the point is that if you're in the lowest decile of income in the state of Maine, according to this model, your income would increase, your post-tax income would go up by about $1,000 a year if you implement this policy. And that continues, it declines as you make more and more money. But it's not until you get to the 60th or 70th decile where you start breaking even. And when you're in the 80th or 90th decile, now all of a sudden it's costing you money. So the point is, their idea was, what we want to do is put a price on carbon, but we want to put a price on carbon in a manner that doesn't hurt people who can't afford it. That's the idea. So a number of towns here in Maine. So why am I here? Why am I here? The idea here is, and I've got a list of the towns, but it's like South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Gray. There's a number of towns, I think more than 30 towns in the state of Maine now have endorsed a resolution to convey to our legislators, in principle, King and Susan Collins, who are both on the Climate Solutions Caucus. We have an outsized influence here in the state of Maine. Our 2 senators are both in the caucus, and they wield a lot of clout. And recently, in one of the budget bills that was passed, we had 49 senators in support of this legislation. Climate change isn't going to stop. We're going to continue to emit. So this is a way of addressing it if we could get the political will to do it. And so far, we don't have it. So the idea here is to get Maine towns to express to our legislators, hey, would you guys do something about this? Consider this. And that's why I'm here. And I'd be happy to come back and share some of the more mundane details of what this is all about anytime you want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. If you do have any materials that we could either leave with the town manager or, reach out to you for more information, we'll
Absolutely.
take kind of that feedback on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other folks who'd like to speak as part of public discussion today? Okay, we will close up public discussion and move into legislation and policy. First up is 24-083, to hear a report from the tax assessor to consider and act on setting the FY 2025 tax rate. And my apology, I think our tax assessor is not here this evening, but the great news is our town manager, Mr. Sturgis, spent much of the other part of his life as an assessor. So to tee us up this evening, Matt, would you like to kind of give us a larger overview of, especially for the folks at home who may not know exactly how we go about calculating the tax rate? Would you just kind of give that lay of the land for us?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Brushwine is away, is out at the present time. We do anticipate he'll be back next month. He's also going to bring an update at that point in time on the revaluation that is forthcoming to the community for the reassessment of all the properties. But that'll be a discussion for the future. What we have this evening for council action is to set the tax rate. What this does is the council has gone through the budgetary process, as well as the school board, to determine the amount that needs to be raised to pay the bills for both operations. They will take that overall number that needs to be raised, and that number is divided by the value of the overall value of the town, or what the town is assessed at locally. Right now, this year, the town's current assessed value is $1,540,044,280, and the ratio for that is 64%, meaning that properties are currently assessed at 64% of what they're worth. So there is that. The overall value, so Mr. Brushwine has spent the past year assessing new properties, so any new construction, land divisions, or additional personal property has been assessed by the assessor, and that's been added on to the tax rolls. And that was an increase of approximately $35,200,000 over last year. So it's shown robust growth. This year, Mr. Brushwine has also done the LD1 calculation. LD1 is a law that was passed in the Baldacci administration, and that at that time set that a tax levy limit by statutory standards, and that's based on the amount of increase that the town can legally do within a certain limit. That's actually going away next year. This is the last year of that bill, and towns usually have to look at that and say, okay, if we're going to be greater than the tax levy limit, we need to either vote to exceed it or to increase it. Neither of which does the council need to undertake tonight, because you are below it. The tax levy limit was established at $7,379,000. This year, the municipal property tax levy is $6,026,000, which is roughly $1.35 million less than what the tax levy limit is. So that's why the council doesn't need to take action on that. However, we are looking for the council to set the tax rate this evening. So based on the amount that does need to be raised, one other item I wanted to mention was this also sets the exemption amounts for the homestead exemption and the veterans exemption. Those are both adjusted by the ratio that I talked about earlier at 64%. So this year, when property, if they have the homestead exemption, you'll notice that the homestead will be $16,000 taken off from your assessed value, and then the veterans exemption, if you are qualified for that, will be $3,840. So that's 64% of the total amount that could be granted at. So this year, we're looking to recommend to the council to set the tax rate at $23.25 per $1,000 of assessed value. That's a 4.97% increase above the current tax rate for this year. And so one wants to understand what that impact may be on them. That's for every $100,000 in value on your property, it's a $110 increase. So if you had a $250,000 home, your taxes are going to increase by $275. At $300,000, it's $330. At $500,000, that's $550, and at $1 million, it's $1,100 as an increase. And the other item that I would like to ask the council for this evening is to set the tax due dates as well. And we're looking to set those as Monday, September 16th, and Thursday, March 13th. And the reason why we're asking for that versus having it set on the 15th and the 15th is because on both days, the 15th falls on a weekend. And it's a challenge for taxpayers to wonder, well, if they, and it's also a challenge for staff, because if it doesn't come in on or before that due date, then interest does accrue. So this way, having it on a Monday and a Thursday, at least the property owners have the ability to come into town hall, and a lot of people like to take that opportunity to hand their tax bill payment to staff instead of either putting it in the mail or doing it through escrow. So a lot of folks enjoy that. So that's why we're making that recommendation this evening as well. Happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we make a motion later on, do we need to add the tax dates to
No,
that? No. That's
No,
good.
just wanted to make sure the council was
Okay.
good with that, and yeah, you don't need to, that's not part of the motion, just wanted to let you know that's
Okay.
what we're looking to do from an operational standpoint.
Perfect, thank you. Before we go into council discussion, I wanted to see if there's anyone from the public who wanted to comment on this agenda item. Okay, we will close that and move into council discussion. Councilor Douglas?
Oh, sorry, Bob. Would you like to go?
Councilor Vale.
There are no $250,000 homes in Cumberland. Let me get that right out of the way there. That's kind of misleading.
Oh, my gosh.
You mentioned, and I think if I understood it correct, that the assessed values are at 64%. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So if you had a $400,000 home, today's tax value is actually only 64% of value. So if we do a quick math, when the new valuations come out, we can add the difference.
Yeah, one way to think about that, Council Vale, if your property is, if it's worth, let's say, $500,000 on the market, it's probably assessed at roughly $300,000 today. So it's, we're in that about 60% range of there. So if you've had it appraised, or you've had a realtor give you an opinion of value, if you multiply that by 60%, that kind of gives you the idea about what your assessment is going to be, or what it's currently at, based on all the sales. So if a house came in and it did sell for $500,000, you're noticing that it's probably assessed at $300,000.
I think the thing that I want to make clear is the mill rate is really a meaningless number, because it is an evaluation that is not an accurate valuation, and the only accuracy that we can use as a council is our spending habits, and how much more did we spend last year than this year, and how much more will we spend next year. And if we look at our municipal spending, it's very modest. We could always find areas to cut, but I think in general we can say that municipal spending has been modest, and the increases have been modest.
Councilor Douglas?
I would agree, Bob. Our increases have been modest. However, I do want to flag that next year, just to be clear, will be the reval that will hit the budget, or that will hit the mill rate, correct? From a reassessment perspective.
Thank you for that question, Councilor Douglas. I'll try to be brief on that one. I've been living the revaluation life in Cape for the year leading up to this, and I've done 3 revals in my career as well. But
Just
yeah,
wanna keep you on your toes.
the revaluation, when it is implemented, will the target is to have it in place for next year's assessment. What you will find that it's revenue neutral to the town, meaning that the tax rate that you're setting tonight at 22.35, 23.25, excuse me, will be reduced dramatically, because it's really, again, it's a big fraction. As Councilor Vale said, it's looking at the spending, and and if you do modest gains that you have there, that's going to be offset by and that's the top number in the fraction. The bottom number is the value. So if you say it's 1.5 billion is the value, you're probably going to be closer to 2.75 billion when you come out of a revaluation. So that rate could drop by as much as 35-40% next year if all spending stays the same. So that you'll see that. So it could be, you know, the $11, $12, $13 range versus the 23 range now.
Okay. And that will be in the first tax cycle for that would be, in theory, September of 2025, right?
Yes. Yep,
FY 26.
September 25,
Okay.
March of 26.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Councilor DiBartolomeo.
Thank you. Can I make a recommendation, only because it sounds confusing, because for the first payment, you're moving because they both fall on a weekend, so you're making one payment going into a Monday, but then you're making the second payment on the Thursday, and I think that's going to make people, I think, confused, because, you know, usually, like, even with the IRS, whenever the IRS April 15th falls on a weekend, they always make it that first Monday. So I think when you're saying that for the March 15th falling on a Saturday, making it due Thursday, I think it's going to make it confusing for people to say making it due before the 15th rather than after the 15th. You see what I'm saying? Because you're making that it due then prior to the 15th rather than after the 15th. And I don't know if that's going to make people confused, thinking that for the first payment you made it due after the 15th, and now you're making it due before the 15th on the second payment. So something to consider.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Please.
We could go for some, pardon the Debbie Downer on the holiday, but we could go for St. Patrick's Day, which would be March 17th, and it is a Monday, and that would work just as great. That way you could have a Monday, at least you would have consistency on the Monday as
Right.
well.
That's all I'm suggesting,
Yep, we
because
can go for that.
It's like you work in finance.
it's just, I'm just trying to avoid people being upset on the second payment, coming in on Monday thinking that it would have been due Monday, to find out that they're late for their payment because we made it due Thursday instead of Monday.
That's a great point.
It is.
We can go for that. That'll work great. We're at the point now when we go to print tax bills, we can just get that on there now. So we're at that, as you know, we're at that ink setting date now, so we're good. So we can go for the 17th. That'll work just as well, if council's good with that. Thank you.
I had one question in here. On page, I think we are, where we talk about revenue sharing, like item 8, right? So 2023, 1.7, and estimated for 2024, 1.550, and the first year, well, the 2023 is where we kind of got dinged, right? And so if we're reading the tea leaves correctly, do we sort of have that expectation that we are going to have lower revenue share again this year from the state?
Thank you for that question, Madam Chair. That's a great question. Last year's, or the current fiscal year that just finished, as of June 30th, it was roughly 1.7 million, and a lot of towns, due to our tax rate being where it's at and the value that we have, revenue sharing 2 was reduced. So you're about $200,000 less this year. A lot of towns they either lost it completely or it was dramatically reduced due to their assessed ratios in their communities. However, the 1.55 is spot on. At a minimum, I've just received the FY25 forecast updated forecast today from the state, and it had it as 1.556. So that's probably the floor. I anticipate that we may receive more, but what the town used in its budget for this year forecasting going forward is a solid number.
And if I was tracking what you were saying, we received that estimate from the state? Okay,
Yep,
great.
in the past, and the books just closed.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or Counselor Thorson?
A comment. Since this is applicable, what you had mentioned last meeting about the senior property tax assistance applications coming out soon. Looking at this for, a $400,000 assessed value home plus the school board's budget as well, it comes out to around like a $900 increase annually. I think theirs was around 4%. It's like 3.98 or something for Cumberland. And this is just the municipal we're talking about. So that tax assistance could take a decent chunk off of this increase that people may be seeing coming up.
Oh.
Did I say the figure wrong?
No, I'm so glad you asked that question, though. So if I'm understanding you, Counselor Thorson,
Yeah.
if I may, Madam Chair.
Please.
Just to ask, the 4.97% is total. That's town
It is
and school.
total.
That's the whole tax commitment. So
Oh,
that's.
excellent.
yeah,
Because I remember seeing the municipal levy, and it didn't,
Sure.
so that's a combination.
Yep, that's okay. Yeah, that's the overall picture for the tax rate itself. So it's a 4.97% increase over the current year.
Okay.
And then, and so that 440 is for that $400,000 home. It's not twice that. And if that helps at all, but that's all. The reason why part of that is because of basically the $35.2 million in new value that you picked up, offset part of the increase on both the town and the schools portion of the town's tax rate.
So the town increase was about 1%. Is that then what you're saying, if this is combined?
It is combined. And so you've got what the town's expenditure or net increase was by, plus the school, but then that's offset with the value pickup. So
Got it.
that-
Math.
that offsets the gross increase.
Okay. Well, even more so, property tax assistance, because then it can potentially wipe out that entire increase for you.
Yeah.
Also, it's for renters too, which is cool. Okay.
And that starts the first week of August. I know Whitney's been pushing out all the information
Yeah.
that we can on that too, to try to publicize.
Okay, thank you, sounds good. Thanks for clarifying, because that was a big,
No, thanks for the
I'm thinking
question.
like, holy crap. Thank you, thank you for clarifying.
And I think in the spirit of Counselor Story King, who is no longer here as a counselor, but she does instill the importance of reminding folks every year that you need to reapply for those tax assistance programs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Counselor Magoon.
Just a question on the senior tax assistance rebate program. Is the wording of that a town thing? Because the renters are eligible for it, but the renters don't pay taxes directly as landowners. So the tax wording of it, if there's a way we could change that to, maybe take the tax out and just the assistance, might have a better uptick of people understanding that it's available to them as well. And not thinking like, oh, well, I don't pay real estate taxes, therefore I don't qualify for this, when they actually do.
I think that's a good question. I may have to come back with a better answer for you on that, Councilor Magoon, just out of thought. And if we have and I think after we go through the process this year, when we have a better understanding as the percentage participation from the rental side versus the property tax side, we can identify what level of, like, how much use is employed on the rental side. But yeah, we want to make sure we advertise that just as much, because your rent does go to pay the taxes, and so it's just a percentage and how you try to figure out this sliding scale on that.
Did you have a question, Counselor Bill? Okay, over to you.
It's not a
Counselor
question, it
Thorson.
was just, I'm pretty sure the wording for renters, considering renters as part of the homestead payment, that's in like the main statute wording.
That was more my question of, do we have
Like,
control over
our
the
version,
wording,
'cause, yeah,
or is it
yeah.
a state mandate that
Yeah, that's a good question.
dictates how we, word it?
It's a state mandate on how we distribute it. But I don't know about the wording.
Yeah, we may try to find a better way to word that for next year, like the senior tax assistance, senior tax and rent assistance rebate program, something along those lines. Whitney's much more gifted at that than I am with finding the proper language, so we'll work as a staff on that side of it.
Thank you so much.
My mind always goes to those graphics where it's like, do you rent a house? Do you, like those prompting questions that make you,
Like the choose your own adventure.
choose your own adventure
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's like that type of modeling, I feel like you find a better take rate on the response on that, so.
Great ideas all around.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other council discussion or possibly a motion on the table?
Happy to give you a motion. Gosh. No, I know. Oh,
Get on with it.
can I get a second?
Did you make the
Did you make a
motion?
motion first?
Yeah, I moved to give you a motion.
Okay, I second it.
Okay. I move to set the municipal tax rate for FY 2025 at $23.25.
Second again.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous, Brenda. Okay, it is the night of taxes. Get excited, Mr. Manager. As I know you are, when it comes to revaluation, 24-084, to consider and act on setting the rates at which interest will be paid for delinquent taxes and to authorize applying tax payments to the oldest unpaid taxes. I am going to punt over to our esteemed Mr. Sturgis. Again, if I'm recalling correctly, the state legislature has set at 8.5% as the maximum amount, and here in Cumberland last year, we did 4%. Is that correct?
That is correct, Madam
Okay.
Chair. And again, this is one of those elements that is set by the council as far as a council activity. What oftentimes you need to set is that maximum rate, and within your council packet this evening, you have the historical rates that have been charged. Last year was 4%. The year before that it was 4%, and it goes back up to until 2020. It was 8%, and then the town had tracked pretty much what the state maximum had been for many years at that point in time. So it's a question of ultimately what's the council's preference on that. So you can charge less than that, but you can charge up to that amount for that. And then the other item is that as taxes are paid, what the staff will do is to apply payments to the oldest amounts due. The portion behind that is because that's probably the ripest, and it's accumulating the greatest amount of interest as you go forward. So that's why, and you want to retire that because it also has the most jeopardy, because if it goes to lien and that lien matures, then a property owner may be relinquishing title to their property, and then that opens a whole other chapter of where we need to go. So, but this evening, it's up to the council to set that rate, but we did give you the historical background for where we're at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we move into council discussion, there is an opportunity for public comment, if anyone would like to comment on this particular agenda item. All right. Back to the council. Councilor Douglas.
I've just got a lot to say tonight.
That's great.
Matt, not a couple questions, but just like looking back here kind of at the pattern, to me, I read this as COVID hit, and then we wanted to stay at that 4%, and then I recall last year voting on this, why hike the increase, and then seeing kind of where the economy sits right now, and just trying to understand, what do other towns do? Do you have any insight? Do most people kind of follow the same pattern? I guess my initial thought on this would be like to meet somewhere in the middle, because I think reading back through this, it looks like the thought was to kind of try to be helpful during COVID, and now that we've rebounded, should we be hitting the same maximum rate? Should we fall somewhere in the middle this year and then look to go back to the max rate next year? Just kind of what are your thoughts there?
And while you're answering that question, could you also, just as a data point on that same table, it looks like in 2021, there was the 4 to 6, up to 6%. Could you just talk a little bit about that? Was it like a sliding scale, or just kind of how all of that works?
Thank you for both questions. I believe 21.
We're just making sure that you really
Yeah.
were a tax
Yeah,
assessor
yeah.
at one point.
I have the scars to prove it, Madam Chair. In 20 to 21, or 21, that was, it ultimately comes down to the legislature sets that. So in their infinite wisdom, they set that range of 4% up to 6%, giving towns kind of that ability to flex during that window of time. At the same time, during many of those years, we as a nation experienced significantly low interest rates. So that's why, and even at 7 was quite high in comparison to what the market was charging for interest rates. And now, since then, since 22 and over the past couple of years, we've seen robust interest rate hikes at the Fed level. So I think that's why it's grown to kind of where it's at now. As far as experience with the other communities, generally what I found is that they've set it at what the max rate is. They just have pretty much just gone with what has been set there. I know in Cape, we always would set it, over the past 25 years, we would set it at what the maximum was. And just because it was just muscle memory, for lack of a better way to describe it. And a lot of towns just do the same thing. It's like, well, it's that amount. Generally, you would hope that you don't have to charge it. The ideal is not to have to charge it, and the town is roughly at the 99% collection rate. Councilor DiBartolomeo can correct me if I'm wrong, but generally we're in that rate because it is, you have valuable properties and people don't want them to go to that point, and it's expensive if you do put it behind you. So with a high percentage collection rate, it's not a giant revenue stream for the town. But at the same time, the thought is if you have a higher rate that you are identifying, that it's enough of a disincentive to not pay your taxes. So if you have a low interest rate amount to charge, then in a sense you're borrowing from the town. If you have a less than prime rate that you may be getting charged, your money could grow somewhere else at a greater rate.
Interesting. That's really helpful. Councilor Vail?
People don't pay their taxes because they don't want to. It's because they don't have the money. And I think, like you say, the collection rate is high, and I would be very uncomfortable charging the maximum rate. I think the 4% is a modest request to make something on the delinquency, but we shouldn't be punishing people. People are in a situation. There's always an exception to all things, but by and large, people are not paying their taxes because they don't want to. It's because they don't have the funds to. And so I don't want to capitalize on that. And 4% to me is a good number to stick with.
Councilor Reeds?
I've got to echo what Bob said. Just my years on the council, what I've seen in this town is the majority of people that have not paid their taxes have been people that have been here for a long time. Mm-hmm. And the town outgrew them, and they had a tough time. So keeping that in mind, I agree, Bob, the 4%.
Councilor DiBartolomeo?
I also echo that, seeing that the collection rate, we have amazing citizens that pay, and we only punish the people who can't pay. And we just, all we're doing is basically pushing them further away from their ability to try and make the payments that they are trying to make to make that payment. And so when we maximize that, we really don't, we're not making any money, so why are we punishing them from trying to make those payments to get their taxes paid? So.
Councilor Thorson?
A question, if it really is a 99% pay rate and we aren't making money on it, why not go lower? Crazy question perhaps, but is it feasible? Because if it's only the small minority of people who are struggling, and like Bob said, is for too much, are we making anything to where, you'd want to keep that? So what would be the cost?
That's a great question, and I think ultimately it's the council's decision. You decide whatever rate that you'd like to put. My recommendation would be whatever the council finds that you're comfortable with. And if you want to go 4%, 2%, whatever the number ends up being. If it's helpful to the council at all, I think this year, by the time we get down to the final end of the year, I think we had 12 properties that we needed to record leads on, or start that process with. So that's roughly, about 4,000 properties in all, so 12 at that point in time. It's not, like I said, it's not a giant revenue line for it. It's really, and comes down to, as Councilor Reeds said, they're not doing it because they don't want to. It's generally there may be a hardship there, or something is in between being able to pay. So, but it's
And
up to the council to set that.
Was that, because I know we have budget stuff down here, is this current, or is there like past of how much actually was brought in from those delinquent payments with the interest?
Oh.
Like a figure to know, what half of that would be, or potentially less?
I may have to get that information provided to the council just to see what our interest amount on property taxes was for the year. But I can get, finance can determine what that's going to be, and I can report back to the council.
I think one other tool that might be, and Councilor Eads and Councilor Vale, who have been around to distribute more of these, but one tool we also have in our toolkit are poverty abatements, which we've done before, and I think are a really important element. I don't know, Mike, or if you want to just. You've been on the council for a long time, and we've done that for folks because we also really do consider their hardship, right?
You're spot on. I mean, we haven't rubber stamped every abatement that comes in. We don't reject them or approve them. Just everyone is taken individually, and this council has done the right thing, I think, consistently for the last 15 years. I feel very strongly about that when it comes in front of us. And we've had a couple people that have cheated the system. One in particular, Bob and I have dealt with for years, and we were unable to do anything about that, but the majority of them are we do the right thing. This council does the right thing.
Yep, Councilor
So
Thorson.
is your, are you saying basically there are other ways to help people aside from doing anything with this rate? And so if we keep it the same, there are other methods for those who really need it to be assisted by the council?
Yeah, I think everyone thinks about it differently. I think about the poverty abatements, or when we get into that real hardship, when folks don't have any other options, we do have an option. One thing that I was curious, I don't know, maybe Helene, you know this offhand, but does anyone know what the current rate of inflation is kind of hovering around? I know it's cooled a little bit. Personally, I don't feel like my grocery bill has gone down at all. It seems to be very, very high, but just kind of curious.
3.1%.
We're at 3.1%.
That's what the 3 to 3.1 range. That was as of last week.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just looking at mortgage rates too. I was just looking at what that was. It was like 6-7% right now.
6 to 7. Okay.
So.
When you're ready, I'll have a motion for you.
Is there any other discussion, or?
What are you thinking, Mike? 4%?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm on board for that.
I'm also comfortable with that. So if there's a motion on the table, I'd love to hear it.
Move the question.
Madam Chair, I move to set an interest rate of 4% for delinquent real and personal property taxes for FY 2025.
I'll second.
There's a second part, I think, Mike, be it further ordered that all payments? That has to be part of the motion, right?
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Madam Chair, be it further ordered that all payments for delinquent real and personal property taxes be applied to the oldest unpaid taxes.
Thank you kindly. We have a motion.
A second.
And a second.
catch.
All right, all those in favor? Unanimous. Brenda?
I just realized I went out of order last time.
forgive you, Counselor Douglas.
Thank
All
you.
right. Oh, moving on to my favorite topic of all time, 24-085, to approve the Town Forest Invasive Species Management Plan as recommended by the Lands and Conservation Commission. I am super pleased to invite up Todd Ontel, who is the chair of the Forestry Subcommittee for the Lands and Conservation Commission. Todd, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very excited to be here. Thank you for the Town Council for considering the invasive plant species management plan for the town forest. I just wanted to take a few minutes to make a few remarks about what this is and why it's important for us. And as you said, I am the chair of the Forestry Subcommittee for the Cumberland LCC, also joined by Mike Schwint, who is the chair for the commission as well. So what is an invasive plant species management plan or invasive plant control plan? And why do we need one? Well, essentially, this is really a recognition that invasive plants are one of probably our biggest issues facing our town's forests. And fortunately, the state of Maine has a program to help support town governments and municipalities in controlling invasive species to help to manage their forests and conservation lands for healthy conditions. And so this is a program that's administered by the Maine Forest Service and the Maine Natural Areas Program. It's grant funding from the U.S. Forest Service's Landscape Scale Restoration Program. And so what it does is that it will reimburse municipalities for up to 50% of the cost of the preparation of a plan. And then once that plan is approved, then it opens up the opportunity for us to apply for further funding from the state to pay for some of the implementation of the control practices on our town's forest. So really quickly, this differs from forest management plans, which really kind of focus on, the tree species that are on our forests and how do we manage those, and really just kind of focuses on the invasive species and how do we control those invasive species. So very briefly, what's in the plan? I think the most important points really that this plan outlines are sort of where we were in the past. So it describes a little bit of the past work that's been done. We had a plan in the past prepared about 10 years ago from a different consulting forestry group. This plan was written by our current forester, Paul Larrivee with 207 Forestry, who we've been working with for a number of years and does just amazing work. The invasive species plan kind of outlines kind of the broad vision for how you control invasive plants. So really kind of prioritizing the areas that are in good condition. We want to keep those in good condition. We want to keep the invasive species out of those areas where there aren't invasive species already, and then kind of work towards the worst, most invaded or degraded areas. And so the plan, the work that Paul did was to go out and inventory the town forest, so about 86 acres, identify, what invasive species are out there, where are they most abundant, where are those kind of priority protection areas, and where are areas where there are concerns for other individual plant species that are problematic for us. So once we have kind of an idea of what's out there, what the conditions are, and a map that outlines sort of what our priorities are, then Paul outlined a timeline for us to implement these practices that begins, really works off of the recent work that we've done out there, working with the town We've done some mulching in some of the worst invaded areas with buckthorn. So kind of following up on that work to make sure that, you know, our efforts weren't wasted, but then also identifying how we can, you know, protect those priority healthy areas that aren't invaded, and then sort of working to meet in the middle, I guess, where the areas where there's specific plants of concern. We have Phragmites that has pretty much a monoculture out there, just a pure stand of Phragmites in some wet areas. We've got one small area of Japanese knotweed, which we really want to make sure it doesn't turn into a much bigger problem. And then, of course, buckthorn is kind of all over the place and is kind of our biggest effort targeted towards the buckthorn. And so this really lays out a roadmap for us for how we can move forward with managing the invasive species out there on the town forest. And, you know, hopefully with your approval of this plan, then we will be able to get further funding from the state to help offset some of the costs of the treatment. So that is all I wanted to say. If there were any questions, I'm happy to answer questions.
I just had one question. So where the first item on the timeline for 2024 says present plan to council and staff, determine amount of staff labor available for invasive work. I know that in the past we've had a little bit of trouble kind of toggling, because so much of the invasive management comes down to when to apply the herbicide, right? Because you sometimes need to do it at a particular phase, and that doesn't always work with who's available at Public Works or, you know, kind of all of that. So my bigger question is, have you had the opportunity already to kind of sit down with staff to have that discussion about how kind of the priorities here and staff availability kind of comes together, and if they don't come together, what tools we would need, whether it be volunteers or applying for grants or any of that. And maybe, I'm not sure if it's a Todd question or a Matt question or a both question, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, so there has been some discussion. Unfortunately, I was not able to make that conversation. Matt, I don't know if you can speak to that, those discussions, or Mike can.
I think Mike can. I know Chris has brought me somewhat up to speed on it, and I know that they are working to coordinate those efforts as well going forward. So we're a partner.
Great.
So,
Unless Mr. Schwinn, or do you have anything to add to that, Mike? Sorry. We can't live without you, Mike.
Nothing gets done without Mike.
This is my house right there.
Thank you, Todd. Mike Schwinn, Chair of the Lands and Conservation Commission. In the past, last year when we did some spraying back here in the town forest, we had some people from the town staff doing some of the work. This year, there seems to be some question about whether or not the certifications are going to be appropriate. So we're going to have to more than likely find an outside contractor to do the spraying back here in the town forest this year. Now, Matt just did sign a contract to do some spraying for invasives along the town rights of way, so that's a different contract. If you look at the work plan for the Lands and Conservation Commission, you'll find we probably got about $40,000, plus over $40,000, or roughly 2/3 of our budget targeted for invasives along the way. Some of it's going to be for contracting out for spraying. Some of it's going to be for contracting for people to come in and do some grinding, as well as looking to the town staff to help do some grinding back here. And I have to say that they've done a marvelous job cleaning up the mother lode that's right behind the town hall. When the sun is shining, you open that window, you can look into the forest now. You wasn't able to do that last year, but that's some of the work that they have done. So, long answer, we need more. We're going to get some different resources to work in the town forest this year to do some spraying, and then couple that with the work outside on the rights of way. The other thing we need to do critically, and which is not in our budget anywhere along the line, is finding something to get either native plants growing where we got the stuff knocked off, or find the replacement plants that we can get in there so that we have plants growing that we want rather than seed sprouting and coming back and reinfesting the whole area. So that's just a heads up for what we're going to be talking about in the future. So thank you.
One thought, Mike, I don't know if you're familiar with you probably are, but the Wild Seed Project.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And maybe we could reach out to Andrea Berry, who's a select board, or the chair of the select board in North Yarmouth. She might be willing to come and chat with us. She helped me personally figure out what to do with the bittersweet area, and kind of had some great ideas for, native species that could compete with the bittersweet, right? And it might be kind of cool to, if she would be willing to come chat with us during a meeting, that might be, if you were up for it.
Yeah, we have to do that because, but when you go back here in the town forest, the part over here on the left side of the trail, it's not wet. You go on the right side of the trail, it's wet. So we're gonna have to have different species in there. So, what grows where where it can have soggy feet, and what can grow over here on the other side, which is basically scantic soil, which is not very good soil. So there's competing opportunities there, if you will. But we haven't got too far down that road. What I've been able to see for the Wild Seed Project, those are small plants, but we need to get something that gets the canopy back up there.
Got it.
So that's another part. But then, as I understand it, my limited research, not being very, very skilled in this area, cranberries, high bush cranberries can grow where it's wet. June berries can grow in there, things like that. So this is just some of the research, but then we have to have a budget in order to go out and acquire these things. But that's all for the future. So it's a good question. And, the kill we got the first go around out there, it looks pretty good. So we come back the second year, if we got a good kill last year, we get the residual this year, then we got to start looking towards planting to get something in there for next year. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we open it up to council discussion, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item? Okay, any comment or questions from the council?
Mike, before you go, sorry.
Go for it.
Mike, before you go, the kind of phase 2 you were just talking about, the native plant growth plan, would that come back as an integration into this plan, or would that be a totally separate plan?
That would probably be an implementation of what this is going to be working on. Now, the thing of this could be some of the timing.
Yeah.
The money we're going to get back for developing this plan that we're going to apply for may not be able to be used on the front end of the property out here, but there's a bunch of stuff on the back end that we could use it. And so that part could be different, and then maybe part of the integration for the next go-round, next bucket of money would be the plants that we can put in there to start taking up that space.
Yeah.
So I don't know all the answers to that.
Yeah.
Paul's the expert on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think there are numerous grant programs for, funding the costs of tree planting in these sorts of situations. I think that an application for one of those grant programs would be much stronger when you're showing the granting agency that you've been doing your homework, you've been doing the work, we've been out there, we've been doing these treatments, as opposed to saying, hey, we want to plant some trees because our forests need it. We can say, here's all the work that we've been doing. So it really shows that we're being very proactive for managing these, our forests for their health when we have, a plan in place and have been really doing the active work to improve them.
Thank you.
Any other council discussion or questions?
Can I say one more thing?
Councillor Douglas?
I would say that I know we have some new counselors, but it was impactful to do a forest walk, so I'd love to do that again, if we can.
We would love to get that on everyone's schedules, yes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you. I know that this kind of priority list is something we've been looking to kind of see. I think we maybe had asked about it late last year, and it's wonderful to kind of have it here because really seeing how everything comes together, and also just what really kind of shown to me about this plan is that it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? And so it's kind of assessing and measuring. And so I just thank you for all the hard work. And of course, thank you to Paul Larrabee for this as well. Any final comments?
I look forward to the sidewalk.
We'll get that scheduled. If there's a motion on the table, I'd love to hear it.
I would move to approve the Town Forest Invasive Species Management Plan as recommended by the Lands and Conservation Commission.
Second. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous, Brenda. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. And to all the work of the LCC. All righty. Item 6, new business. Let's start with Councilor Eads. What's shaking?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. We got an ordinance committee meeting tomorrow. I know there's been interest in that we discuss a couple items that have come, but I don't think that's going to be on the agenda tomorrow. Is that right, Bob? We're just going to.
There's not an official agenda. There was a couple of new members. I thought we'd just use our time as a review from the town clerk, the town code enforcement officer, and also to develop an agenda for a following meeting.
Okay, great. I just sent a couple of people that have sent us emails.
Yes.
I just CC'd and put Denise and you on there. So
I think some of them are going to show up and we can listen to them. But we will take
I had an opportunity yesterday to speak to one of the members of the Train Riders Northeast board, and his daughter and son had moved in down my street. Everybody had a chance to talk to him. They're well aware that the issue of a train station has been brought up. It is still on their radar. It's going to be a while down the road. I would just caution us as a council to be very protective of what we do to that property so we have the room. And that was one of the things he brought up, is that if you're going to do it, you've got to have the room. But it is still on their radar, even though we'll be down the road. So it was a really good conversation. Just a couple condolences. One is for Diane Tupper. Diane lived on Middle Road, had 3 boys go through, Bruce, Matt, and Rob go through the Cumberland school system. She was a nurse at Maine Med, helped give birth to about 5,000 children in the greater Portland area, including my oldest boy. And she passed away, my condolences. And then I know, Bobby, you're probably going to hit on this as well, but we as a council, I just want to condolences to the Sweetser family. Just such a big part of our community. Every fall, my father would have me work. We had a bunch of apple trees on our farm. He'd have me pick them up, and all day long we'd pick up these apples or pick them from the trees and bring them up, and Dick Sweetser would give us like $2 a box for these apples, and maybe a bottle of apple cider. But Connie taught swimming, raised 3 kids through the school system, and just a good family and such a part of this community. And my condolences to the Sweetser family, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Councilor Magoon.
I've got nothing this time.
All right, Councilor Douglas.
I just wanted to echo your sentiments, Mike. I thought the forecaster did a nice, did you read the write-up in the forecaster today? They noted her as the matriarch of Sweetser's Apple Barrel and Orchards. Just was really lovely. She definitely made a great impact on the community. I feel very honored to be following in Ron Kopp's footsteps here. I have his Fallen Behind Fund donations for the food pantry that I've retrieved from the prior 2 meetings. So I have $60 here for the food pantry. I just wanted to say thank you to Pete, Patty, Whitney, all of the town staff involved in Twedsbrook last Wednesday. I thought, from what I heard, it was an amazing performance. And as a reminder, the next one is scheduled for August 7th. A reminder that trash bags are available for purchase at Town Hall. I went through my own trials and tribulations trying to locate them last week. Come to find out they're available here if you need them. And just a gentle reminder that if you have questions or concerns or want to chat, all of us are available. Our contact information is online, or you can email the whole council at towncouncil@cumberlandmaine.com. Love to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Counselor Vale.
I went to the fairgrounds last Wednesday to watch our young lady singer who really can sing. It's just, I had not watched her on TV, and I came away very impressed. That woman can sing. Good turnout. Glad she's a part of Cumberland. The only other thing is Connie Sweetser. It's, and I think I said this once before. It's not how long you've lived in a community. It's what you've done in the time that you have lived in a community. And I worked as a boy for Connie's father-in-law, Herman Sweetser, and his wife. I worked for Dick and Connie over the years. Many renovations on their own home, on the farm. Connie taught me how to swim. She instructed my senior life-saving course in high school. Just a great woman, a great family. Her 2 sons and daughter were high school classmates of mine. She had a life well lived, lots of accomplishments. We'll miss her. She certainly leads a legacy for all of us to strive for. All I got.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Thorson?
I'm good, thank you. Nothing for me.
Counselor Di Bartolomeo?
Tonight, I just want to give a shout out to the men and women of the Cumberland Police Department. Thank you for keeping our town safe and being out 24/7, and just thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Only thing for me is I wanted to the anonymous, generous donors who put forth funds to repaint the crosswalk. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I had heard that perhaps the gentleman who painted the crosswalk had some uncomfortable moments, and maybe had been kind of bugged a little bit as he was doing it, and kind of hurt my heart a little bit. And it's really nice to know that it's been redone, and it's I think important symbol. And so thank you to those folks. And yeah, that's it for tonight, I think. Take a motion for adjournment if there is one.
Let's go home.
I'll move to adjourn.
For a second. All right, Counselor Douglas got it. All those in favor? Unanimous, Brenda.
Thank you.